Finally, Missouri AG is suing New York, Alvin Bragg, over prosecuting Donald Trump for election interference. Finally. Can we get some more out of this? You know, I've mentioned Anthony Fauci's guidelines were directly impacting red states. They can go after Fauci for these things. Shout out to Missouri for actually making these moves. And to be fair, we've seen some great stuff from Texas and Missouri. They've been filing lawsuits defending free speech, challenging big tech corporations. A little bit out of Florida, too, so I do appreciate it. But I want to see, this is a good start, but we got to see some criminal investigations, and that's got to come from red states. So we will talk about that. Donald Trump made big news today when he said he wanted to give green cards to college graduates, and people are really, they're debating this one. There's a lot of people who are upset they disagree with Trump on this one. And we'll get into that. And then, of course, Van Jones says it's game over for Joe Biden if he cannot perform at this debate. And they all know it. So we're going to talk about all that, my friends. But before we get started, head over to song.link/Rachel. Why? Rachel Holt has a new song out now with Based Records. The song is titled I Was Gonna Be. And it's pretty deep. I don't want to go too much into it myself because I'm going to leave it to Rachel to describe this. But it's an anti-abortion song. It's a song about protecting life, being in support of life. And you guys should go to song.link/Rachel. Buy the song on iTunes. You can buy it on Amazon too, but I said buy it on iTunes because like all the songs we've released, like the songs Tom McDonald released or the one he did with Ben Shapiro, we want to prove that there's a market for this, that people care about this. And more importantly, whether you care about charting on Billboard or not, it's kind of funny when the corporate press, which is overly woke, and these institutions are forced to reconcile with the fact that conservative songs, right-wing songs, liberty songs, anti-establishment songs are actually making it up the charts. Now, I will say, they are trying to change the rules every single day to prevent people like us or Rachel from making it on the charts. You gotta love it. But of course, you can go to, once again, song.link/Rachel. Buy the song on iTunes. Check it out. I recommend checking it out. See, if you like the song, you should definitely buy it. It's shout out to Based Records. And don't forget to also head over to timcast.com. Click Join Us. Become a member to support our work, our cultural endeavors, and join our Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. We've got a couple of guests joining us tonight to talk about this and more. We've got Rachel Holt.
Yeah, so this song is pretty much a pro-life song, and Chris Wallin here, he wrote it. So we've been working on this song for a while, but when he first showed me it, instant chills. And it's kind of just a song from the baby's point of view. You just want to tell your story on it?
Yeah, well, I actually
We have Chris Wallin joining us.
Thank you. So I actually started writing this song for myself. And just kind of, I didn't think anyone would ever have the courage to sing this song. It was just one of those things that I had to get out of me. And I was about halfway through writing it when a friend of mine introduced me to Rachel. And it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. This is who needs to be singing this song. And I didn't know if she would, but I played it for her, and she loved it. And it, for me, it's just I just wanted to give a voice to the voiceless because everybody talks about the other side, but they never talk about the actual baby. So I just wanted to give that baby a voice, and that's what I did. And
right on.
Rachel had the courage to do it.
So you're a couple of musicians making some music, and this is the latest song from Based Records. Shout out. Afro Man had that song that hit the charts. Hunter Got High.
Hunter Got High.
So we'll talk about that. I think we're going to get a lot into the cultural stuff once we get to the news. There's a lot of funny news stuff we'll go through, but it is a Friday night, so we'll have fun with it. And then at 9:30, y'all are going to play the song for everybody.
Absolutely.
Live here in the studio. We're really excited for it. We also got Libby hanging out.
I'm hanging out. I'm Libby Emmons. I'm glad to be here.
Right on. Hannah Claire's here.
I feel like I haven't seen Libby in forever. I'm so glad
It's been
you're
a
back.
while. Yeah, I've had a lot of personal stuff.
You came the day after my dictatorship ended.
That's right, yeah.
I was dictator for a day. Guys, thanks for all your support yesterday. I was really happy that I got a chance to fill in for Tim. I'm glad he's feeling better. It's a lot of work running the show. And again, thank you guys for all your support.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow, and now that I'm not a dictator on Timcast IRL, I'm a writer for SCNR.com. Follow their work at Timcast News.
I don't know what they were telling y'all because I wasn't here yesterday. Probably making stuff up. I don't know.
Look, when there's a power vacuum, you have to act.
That's right.
And Trump said that he would be a dictator for one day, so just channel the energy.
Yesterday, I woke up at 2 a.m. with my root canal tooth was infected, and pain was like 8 out of 10. And so I had to go to, I literally, I do it at the ER and get treatment, antibiotics, and painkillers. And then I was just zonked out. I was like, pain was max, and I could not do anything. But strangely, after the antibiotics and painkillers, I thought I wasn't going to be able to work today, too, because it was so bad. I woke up totally fine. And I was like, wow. So here I am. I'm back.
Shout out to modern medicine.
Modern medicine.
Doing its job.
We got Serge here, pressing
Hi,
the buttons.
Serge.
Yo, let's get started.
Here we go. Here's the first story from SCNR.com. Missouri AG sues New York prosecutor Alvin Bragg over Trump hush money case. Quote, we have to fight back against a rogue prosecutor who is trying to take a presidential candidate off the campaign trail. Attorney General Andrew Bailey tweeted, I will be filing suit against the state of New York for their direct attack on our democratic process through unconstitutional lawfare against President Trump. It's time to restore the rule of law. Bailey's lawsuit is the latest in a series of actions by public officials seeking to address apparent impropriety in the targeting of Trump for criminal prosecution. This spring, House Judiciary Committee called New York's prosecution of Trump an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority and a politicized prosecution. Bailey suggested in a separate post that New York County District Attorney Alvin Bragg charged Trump in a bid to negatively impact his odds of re-election in the 2024 election. Now, it's the little things, right? This is not criminal charges against Alvin Bragg, which I think they should go for right away. But it's a start, it's a constitutional lawsuit. I will take it. I'm glad someone in a red state is fighting back.
Well, it's going to be Bailey because he's the one who fights back against everything.
Yeah,
he's tough.
We need more.
He's tough. We need some. Yeah, we need red state prosecutors from across the country doing stuff like this. It's really egregious to continue to see just the blue states going after conservative pundits and politicians. And,
Why do you think that red
protesters.
states AGs don't act?
I think there is sort of a disconnect going on. This is something I was talking to Jack Posobiec about recently. There's like this disconnect, this idea that, you have to play by the rules. You have to have very specific principles. And he's always like, principles without power is basically just totally useless. You know what I mean? So I'm glad to see Bailey doing this. I'm glad that Congress is dragging Alvin Bragg in for a subpoena. I think it's stupid that it's July 12th instead of prior to
The trial.
The former president being sentenced. I think that's ridiculous. But yeah, more red state prosecutors should be doing this. It's not reasonable that this is going on. And this is something Charlie Kirk was talking about too. It's the Democrats have a machine. Not, the conservatives have a movement, but the Democrats have a machine.
And Andrew Bailey's interesting because he really is active. I mean, he's gone after Planned Parenthood. He's gone after a lot of issues. I think he is someone who feels as though he is representing the interests of his state and the interests of the people who live there. It seems like so often people are afraid of losing office if they stand up for sort of conservative values.
Who is he going after? IBM, Planned Parenthood? Who else?
He had
Joe Biden with
Yeah.
the free speech stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like I see his name every couple months being like, I'm taking action. I did feel this way about Patrick Morrissey in West Virginia. I felt like he was really on the ball for a while. But again, we didn't see any turn to the Trump aspect of this. I think it is good for them to prioritize what's going on in their state. On the other hand, what is happening as people go after
standing,
the president.
but yeah.
So this morning, we had a very fun conversation on the Culture War podcast over at Tenet Media. And, normally we go 2 hours, but the third hour just went into it. Andrew Wilson and I were fiercely debating the prospect of social collapse, decay, civil war, civil strife, etc. And I don't know how much was accomplished with the arguments that were made, but the arguments that I usually make are things like this, interstate lawfare and interstate conflict, are indicative of the breakdown of social order. I mean, let's do the time travel test. I love it. If you went back to 2017 and said in 2024, right before the election, Missouri will be suing New York for unconstitutional prosecution of the presidential frontrunner, accusing them of trying to stop him from being able to win the election through state-level criminal action, who would believe you?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And now it's happening. I mean, Trump is guilty, they said, in New York. We haven't even had the election yet, and we're already getting interstate legal conflict.
Well, and at the end of after the 2020 election, we had interstate legal conflict, but the Supreme Court refused to take it up when Texas teamed up with some other states and sued Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania wasn't following their constitutionally written obligations with regard to how voting should be conducted. And the Supreme Court refused to take that up, which was lame.
Yes. So what's the end result of things like this? I'll put it this way. If no one does anything, then fine. Like Andrew Wilson's premise was, he said Biden will get elected, Trump supporters will grumble and do nothing, and Democrats will expand their control, and that will be it. It'll be over. Mm-hmm. And we had Richard Spencer on as well, and he said that he thinks it will be the last election.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that, and it definitely it does feel like we're at this crisis moment, and there's so many clashes that are looming ahead of us. But there's also the propensity of human beings to want to be at the end times, to want to imagine that they are at the most essential crux of history. So are we at the most essential crux of history? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that the guys in the trenches in World War I thought they were as well.
But they were.
And they sure were.
I mean, and there's a lot of arguments to be made about whether we should have not been involved in World War I. But as Norm Macdonald put, hey, the good guys have won every war. Mm-hmm. Now, his point is, the people who win will declare themselves the good guys. But the point is, there's a resolution to a mass conflict when those conflicts happen. And at the time, it is the biggest problem. If there's a hostage situation, that's the most important thing in the world to that community where it's happening.
But nobody notices, for example, Darfur is about to explode again.
Yeah.
And no one's paying any attention to.
But my point is, for the United States, with lawfare, criminal actions against the front runner for the presidency, we are in the most dire time. But let me just stress this too. I mean, never before has a president been found guilty of 34 felonies, of a felony at all, been put on trial, been threatened with prison. All of this is unprecedented. Mm-hmm. We can entertain the idea that this is the beginning of it becoming normal. And now every 4 years, it is whoever's in power arrests all their political opponents. But certainly
banana republic,
and that leads to something, doesn't it? So if the next stage of this collapsing empire is we get 40 years of every 4 years, the dominant power starts arresting as many of their opponents as possible.
We see that happen in other nations. That's going on in Brazil.
Well, and I think
they fall apart.
Yep.
I think some people feel as though it's justified, right? There are people who feel as though this empire is bad, it's systemically racist, and horrible things all the time. We should probably see the end of this version of America, right? There are people who don't like the country the way it is, or they don't like any of sort of the traditional values or customs that we have, and so emboldening them to hasten on the chaos, hastening decay actually works to, again, a certain ideological, I would say progressive faction's advantage. I think this is one of the things about being on the moment of end times. I think you're right. Everyone thinks this is the most critical moment of history, thing that I'm living through. And when you don't know until the history books are written. But for some people, they are ushering the end faster because they want it. They want this to be over. And other people look at this like the destruction of something good and that should not come.
You know what's weird to me? It kind of feels like the end of... Oh.
Your mic's not on.
I'm not on.
Carter's actually chilling here too.
Yeah. I usually am here with you. We just put a camera here today. Still not on? Okay.
Still not on.
Oh, that's all right.
Carter started talking.
It's
and we were
I think this is vocal mic 1.
Vocal mic 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not working?
All right. Well, never mind.
Bye, Carter.
How's it going? Well, Carter is handling the music production. There he goes. He's over there because we're going to be doing the music soon. And he was trying to chime in, but, we're going to need that one to work, so.
Yes.
See, end times all around us. But
I know,
maybe
right?
Somebody wants it to be the end time.
Yeah.
It seems like, too, as Americans, we have this bubble that we're in that everybody thinks that it's never going to happen to us. We look all around the world, and we're like, nah, that can't happen here.
Yeah, because we have built our civilization up so big and so high. I was thinking about this during COVID, when we just started watching things start to collapse. And it was like, I started to think, why isn't it collapsing faster? And it's like, because we have built it really big. It would take a lot to collapse it. Even just the little things, a massive cascade effect. But we're seeing increase in home foreclosures. It's like harder for people to buy homes, harder for people to stay in their homes, and that is such a huge component of what the American dream is all about. Like you can buy a home, you can live there with your family, you can raise a family in a secure and safe place. And when that's what's crumbling, I always think for Americans, if you can get dinner on the table, that's what you're going to do, and you're not going to worry about the rest of it. But at the point when you don't have a table to put dinner on, then you're going to have trouble.
Yeah.
So real quick, I do understand people can hear. The issue is that Carter's mic isn't coming through the headphones. Right. Anyway, continue, sir.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, the idea of the American dream everybody talks about is not the same today, especially for young people. It is not the same that it was.
Although I talked to my son, which I know I use him as an example for a lot of things, but like he is little.
Get it, Libby? You're a mom. You have a kid.
Whatever. He's like, I want to grow up and be a dad and like have a family, and he's been saying that since he was little.
But I think that's actually not as common. Like it's probably y'all's
and I have
relationship.
talked about this.
We have talked about this because I remember when I talked to all of my friends and it became increasingly more common for them to be like, I don't think I want any kids. And now I hear my younger sister's friends like talking about how kids are inconvenient or whatever else. There's obviously a conversation going on about like having a family is a burden. And I think that you hear that similarly about property ownership. Obviously, housing prices are crazy expensive. I think they just hit an all-time high today. But
there's the interest, right?
Interest rate. I mean, there are obstacles, but also the idea that you would have things that you buy, build, and make better, right? You buy a house, you add value to it, you maybe pass it down, you maybe sell it. That helps your family, which you have also put time into cultivating. These are all part of building blocks of a society. And when everyone around you is saying, well, kids are bad for the environment and you'll never own a house, so don't even think about it. And also probably your job is useless, so quit that. Like there is no momentum to move forward. And again, somebody benefits from that. No one just promotes this idea unless they're getting something out of it.
I do think the idea of the American dream today, what young people think it is wrong. The American dream was getting a job, working really, really hard, and moving up. It was upward mobility. So, I've met tons of immigrants. The story I like to tell is a guy who worked at O'Hare Airport who worked 16-hour days every single day with no day off because he wanted to fund his kids going to college so they can get better jobs and have nice houses and move here from the Philippines. And the government forced him to take time off. After a certain amount of time, the company was like, by law, you can't work for 2 weeks. And you're going to get paid 40 hours per week. And he was freaking out like, no, I need more than that. I need 80 hours a week, more. And they were like, no. And he's like, how am I going to pay for my kids' college? That was the American dream. He moved here and got to work his fingers to the bone so that his kids could live better. Now it's like the Gen Z millennial, the Gen Z and millennial American dream is, I want to be rich off of Instagram and make $500,000 a year.
There was this Julia Fox,
an influencer.
Yeah, there's this Julia Fox interview where she's like, I mean, nobody likes working. I just want to stay home with my snacks and scroll on my phone. And like, while it is always nice to take a break, right? On the other hand, work gives you purpose, right? Having a family gives you purpose. Having a religion can give you purpose. And then ultimately that helps you enrich the community around you. When we are all just living for ourselves as individuals, in societies where we're treated like our cultures are interchangeable and you can just move wherever in whatever country and it's all exactly the same, you are ultimately kind of adrift. No wonder we see skyrocketing rates of depression and anxiety, right?
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately, we are breeding a culture that doesn't make people believe they're in a system that's worth pouring into.
I mean, you have to get sick of just sitting there scrolling, like influencers, like doing that every day, all day. There's just no way you don't.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not intellectually engaging, how are you going to build from it?
I disagree. I think sane, reasonable person, like you're saying, like certainly you must get tired of doing this. But this generation's been raised on nothing else. So they don't know anything else.
Right.
The dude who wakes up every day and starts chopping wood, he knows it, he loves it, it's his thing, he's good at it. He gets his muscle definition and he comes out and he's like, let me show you how to do this. And he's got the best, fastest technique. Mm-hmm. And the people who scroll on Instagram don't know nothing else.
Well, and their brains are wired differently. They are seeking the dopamine hit of each video, right? It's the same thing with like iPad kids. Like their brains are wired differently to want to seek out the blue light, to have, different kind of content to entertain them.
Really? The blue light thing?
Yeah, the blue light's addictive.
Wow.
That's what I've always heard. And like I've heard parenting experts say, don't put your kid in front of a TV until they're 3 years old because otherwise you're suppressing a certain amount of like problem solving and creativity. People get really scared about things and other people are like, that's totally wrong. But ultimately, all of these things, all of the devices that you have are designed so you are constantly using them. They're sucking you back in. You know, you get a notification, the video's faster, YouTube's about to end, whatever it is, and children are particularly vulnerable to this.
There's an episode of Star Trek. I know everyone's very excited to hear about Star Trek, where they go to a planet where the planet is managed by an AI, and none of the people know how the AI works or what it is. Because for generation after generation after generation, the machine has taken care of everything. So it's like, I don't know, it's just there, it does its thing. And then when it breaks, they're freaking out like, we don't know what it is.
Right.
This is where we're going.
Yeah.
We're moving into a generation where, with Boeing, with airplanes, we're seeing like all these stories about airplanes. And a lot of people are like, no, it's just the news reporting it, it's not real. We're seeing crime, they're saying, no, it's just because people are sharing videos, it's not real. It is all real. We're seeing stores close down because the shoplifting is going crazy. We are seeing planes with engines burst into flames. And when they say it's just because it's being reported in the press, I've actually talked to, I shouldn't say talked to, but I've heard from a man. He was telling a bunch of people this story in public, hanging out, saying he used to work for the airlines and they've started removing safety features, like switching out how they used to maintain these planes. And I'm keeping it kind of light. And then there was a story about an investigation into counterfeit titanium being used in planes. Now we're hearing they're saying that broken parts were being put in planes. What's happening is...
Yeah, that was crazy, the broken parts thing.
People don't know how these machines work, don't care to learn how they work. And the companies that are hiring people are going further and further down the merit ladder to find people based on race and identity instead. And so we are going to end up as a society where sooner or later people are just like, Brondo's got what plants crave. So we're gonna pour Gatorade on our crops, and then the crops die, and they're like, "Why'd that happen?"
I wonder why.
Well,
yeah, that's like I look at that with my house, and there's like a broken thing on my porch, and I was like, I need to get someone to fix that, and I was like, no, you got to figure out how to fix that. And so now I'm figuring out how to fix the broken thing on my porch.
Well, and so I think sometimes it comes down to just old-fashioned work ethic. Sometimes too, like when we first, I'll just go back to Rachel. When we first started talking to Rachel, you know, we see a lot of people, we see a lot of artists come in, but Rachel, her dad told me this story. I don't even know if you know that he told me this, but you know, she at 16, Rachel, I mean, had her own band, was out playing. You know, was out playing places, making more than what most people make at a job when she was 16 and 17 years old, doing it herself, getting her own band together. You can't teach that. It's hard to teach that. And then you have people that are trying to make it today that just are karaoke kings and they just want to show up and...
Oh, it's going to be worse, and that's going to be AI.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I would say you can't teach it. It's just the way you teach it's not the same as the way you teach math. You show it.
Right.
So if you get a kid who grows up and they see someone play a song, get paid either tips or sell a CD, they're learning how you do that and they will imitate that. So it's not so much like going to someone saying, here's how you do it. It's just in modern society, parents are putting their kids in front of iPads, TVs before that, computer screens. And so the kids aren't actually watching how functioning adults build networks, build machines, generate value, build wealth, and survive. This next generation growing up, it's going to be wild how many people are already they are, but we're going to start seeing just how incapable they are of basic tasks.
Yeah, I think the environment makes a big difference because we used to have cultures that had kids around people of multiple ages, right? Whether it's slightly older children, maybe siblings that are 10 years older than you, young adults, parents, their families were bigger, and everyone learns to model behavior that they see. Obviously, that could be problematic if you have a family that's maybe dysfunctional, but also if you have an ambitious cousin who's slightly older than you are learning from them. If your parents are doing daily tasks in a certain way, you're observing it. But now we have kids, you know, in school for a large amount of the day, so their parents can both work different jobs in different places, totally separate. Kids are with kids of their own age, and they kind of only socialize in that very, very insular environment with maybe a teacher who they have around but doesn't necessarily model social behavior always. It's a challenge that we have created and also will not give up.
I do want to give a shout out to Revan's Padawan Super Chat. He said, Tim, the Star Trek episode with the AI isn't applicable as the episode with the hypnotic game. Another episode.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good game too. I was thinking about that game the other day.
Let me explain it. So on the show, there's this headset that people get, and it's an augmented reality game. And this is a show from 89, by the way, 1989. And so this is early 90s when this episode comes out. You put the headset on, and you can see a game where you're trying to throw a disc into a hole, and then it triggers a dopamine release that makes you high. In the show, this story is it's used to mind control you. But it's amazing how they nailed that well before. I mean, I think this came out at the same time as Super Nintendo. They didn't realize we were actually going to have Apple Vision Pro glued to our heads, and we were going to have people wanting the Neuralink to go into the Matrix.
And more than just one game. I mean, that was just one game where you breathe in and the little disc goes in the thing.
Yep.
Now we have 5 bazillion games that all do that.
Yep.
All triggering your dopamine, and the worst game of them all is Instagram and TikTok.
Because it's designed to make you want to scroll endlessly forever.
The other thing, too, about it is like, it's sort of, when you spend all your time online and doing social media, it's like your life is just good enough so that you don't question it. It's not that bad. It's not good. But you're just like, meh, it's okay. And you just kind of like drag along to the next day without really a lot of concern that you're not living up to anything worthwhile.
You know, it's really sad.
What?
It's sad that 200 years ago, a woman would walk into the barn and churn butter and be very happy and satisfied. And the man would go out and chop wood and then be like, oh, I got a little extra done. Check it out. We got 32 today. And she'll be like, oh, wow, you got some extra. And he'd be like, yeah, this is great. They'd be very happy about that.
That actually sounds kind of great.
Yeah. But it's like, by today's standards, it seems so quaint to be like, so you chopped wood, so what? But back in the day, that was like, I got the job done. And it's like, well, I got the butter. And it's like, let's eat. And they were happy to live those lives. They were accomplished. They felt good by doing it. Now, every single millennial, I'm exaggerating, but many millennials and Gen Z, they want to be famous. They have to be famous. They have to make $500,000. That's the millennial number where they say, in order to be happy, they need $500,000 a year, and they got to be influencers.
Yeah, that just seems crazy. Also, being an influencer seems like it sucks. That doesn't seem like a great job. I do like a fair bit of, social media stuff. And like being beholden to that seems like it would be just a nightmare. A lot of days I'm like, I'm just happy. I'm just going to go do my job.
Selling supplements.
Yeah, sometimes I think influencer culture, again, because we're a less religious society, means that for a lot of people, that's the only way to feel valued, right? That's the only way to feel like you have any kind of moral platform, that people will remember you. There's sort of this race to be a part of something and to be seen by so many people so that you stay relevant. Whereas, when we lived in a less mobile society, meaning people didn't travel the way we could, we didn't necessarily see as many faces because social media wasn't around. To be important in your community, you'd have to actually go out and do things and be engaged. And, I know there are a lot of influencers who have careers and things that they're passionate about, but the fact that so many young people say that's their number one goal, I don't think it's about, oh, I really love doing this. It's about filling a hole that they have because they're sort of looking for meaning in a world where they feel like they're going to be forgotten. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of meaning because people don't know where to find it.
Yeah.
Right. The meaning is coming from the people out there on the phone. Like there's no alone time. You don't have to actually be alone with your feelings and actually work something out. You just go.
You can be distracted by it.
Exactly.
It's so good that there's like actual new culture being made. So much of what we see is like completely regurgitated. You guys are out here making new music. Tim, you're making new music and like new culture. I have so much respect for that. I think that's what we really need. I think there's more meaning to be found in art and creation.
It's pretty scary, actually. Culturally, a lot of things are collapsing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what happens after that. I think someone's phone might be near their microphone, by the way, or something, because we're hearing that. But, we're working on a bunch of skateboard stuff here at the Boonies HQ. We just finished the new mini ramp. It was awesome. Got to throw a little trick on there. Here's the crazy thing. The skateboard industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, it's in the Olympics, is dying.
Really?
It's dying. There's a ton of professional athletes in skateboarding. They're broke now. They've lost their jobs. You look at video games. People have pointed this out. The new video games flop. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to play them. They're playing the same few, but they're playing games from a long time ago. GTA became an online game, and then everyone kind of stopped where they were. We are seeing serious and exponential cultural stagnation, and it's kind of terrifying. Culture informs. It informs our laws, our decisions, our politics, and we are seeing. Look at Star Wars, what is it called? The Acolyte or whatever?
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's just maybe, I don't know what it is. They're trying to make culture. It seems like they're just ripping it to shreds and burning it to the ground.
Yeah, they don't care about they care about it in as much as they can use cultural vehicles to create propaganda and to spread propaganda. That's why we saw the first use of preferred pronouns in space. That's why they talk about how it's the gayest Star Wars ever.
Space.
And I haven't seen it yet, but I don't want to now.
And there's a fire in space.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
No oxygen.
Fire in space.
Yeah.
So there can be fire inside spaceships where there's oxygen and the chemical reaction can happen with a fuel source of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
But they had a scene where like they're in space and the woman steps out and the engine's on fire and it's crackling.
You're just being a man using science to oppress women's creativity, and I think that
the
they don't
comment
like that.
the comment was, "This is what happens when you get rid of mansplaining." Ha ha. Yeah. But
It is wild that they were like, we don't have to obey the rules of science. This is how important our work of quote unquote art is.
Space magic. Well, let's jump to this story because this story may be somewhat related to the decline of the United States. Trump wants to issue green cards to foreign students who graduate college from SCNR. The proposal drew criticism from Rep. Thomas Massie, Laura Loomer, and Steve Bannon. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on, Laura Loomer? I don't believe that. Where's it? She said, I love President Trump, but I don't agree that you can get a green card if you graduate from an American college. Millions of illegals here in America are on overstayed visas and green cards. She goes on to say, it's just loading. Giving green cards to college graduates from foreign nations is a policy that the base opposes. How can we trust that any vetting of foreigners on campuses would be done adequately when vetting in other areas like personnel has failed? It's no shocker that billionaires and big tech approve of importing immigrants to fulfill jobs in tech. I'm sure that big tech billionaires think the Indians in the call centers who handle our customer service and don't speak English are brilliant too. They aren't, though. These foreigners just take jobs away from Americans. And it's also why big tech was able to get away with stealing the election in 2020, as I wrote about in my book. She goes on to mention that many of the employees at big tech are foreigners, as big tech is no friend to MAGA. No more visas till every single illegal alien is deported. I got to tell you, when Laura Loomer comes out in disagreement with Trump, that's a policy Trump, I mean, she is the tip of the spear for Trump's base. No one is a bigger supporter. And if she's coming out strongly against it, now I got to say, I actually agree with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
On the surface. But let's argue it, and we'll get into the nuance.
Well, I don't agree with it, but if you guys want to stay your level.
Go ahead, Hannah Claire.
I mean, I think in large part, Laura's right. I think the policy of saying that if you come to America, great, get your education, and we'll also let you stay here is harmful to both America and to the countries that students are coming from. If you have a student that is looking to be ambitious, to get an education, and to potentially develop skills in a career, I think it's also important that we don't siphon off the potential middle class of a country that could then fall into economic collapse and become more dependent on America.
But why are we spending money on their education in the first place?
I would be happy to not accept as many foreign students, but that's not the question that we have here. I think with green cards in particular, I think it's accurate to say that the students that are competing, that come to America for education, maybe it'd be good to help them build their economy if they return home with this education. Maybe they don't have access to it. But when they are now competing in the job market, I think that's a disadvantage to Americans. That is not fair. I also agree that ultimately it's very easy to stay in America on an expired visa. I think we should move towards a net zero migration policy. And so it's hard for me to sign off on a green card policy when ultimately we have unchecked immigration. I think we have to address illegal immigration first, but we have to address the fact that if you're a green card holder, you ultimately get a path to citizenship, and we have never addressed the consequences of chain migration. So it's just continuing to feed into an already unstable system, and I just don't think that we should use it as an election bargaining chip at this point.
The question is, how many? First. How many, Trump?
How many of these? Yeah. How many?
How many? You would say zero. Cards? You would accept none of them.
Zero. Probably. I mean, there is probably a very, very small amount I would compromise on, but I think you have to leave with zero.
100.
I don't know. I'd have to see that.
1,000. So here's the issue I see. You've got individuals in many different nations who desperately want to come to America because we're the best. That's why everybody wants to be here. We don't need to compete when we can brain drain the other countries. The question, however, is there is an upper limit that I think would probably be smaller than the average person be willing to accept. So when I say I agree with Trump on this one, it's only because Trump didn't really specify anything. He said, we should give green cards to people who graduate college. I'm like, okay, 1,000 maybe? Because then the goal is you make it extremely, extremely difficult. You hit up Japan, India, Russia, any country, and say only the top 10 of your country will ever be allowed in American university. And then we get their best scientists, we get the best of their researchers, and then they can come here, come to our colleges. It would represent 0.0001% of our education base. But then we don't have to compete with people when they want to be here. We basically buy them out.
Yeah. But what if what if the top 10% just come here and, end up in woke indoctrination centers, and then we just end up with a bunch of woke immigrants.
And that's another
green cards.
That's another
UBI.
And that's another issue that isn't actually, and it doesn't actually argue Trump's point. So when Trump says this, and he says, I actually think we should give green cards with college degrees, my thought was that statement alone isn't enough for me to say Trump is wrong because it's too vague. The question first is how many? The second question is, will there be reform first?
Or what degrees, right? Because the thing is, a lot of institutions in America, especially smaller private universities, need a certain amount of foreign students who can pay complete full cash tuition they don't have to offer financial aid to be able to stay alive. You've seen so many colleges shutter over the last couple of years. This also happens with private high schools too. But you'll see towards the end when there's a financial problem, you'll see the increase in the enrollment of foreign students in large part because they are relying on them for money.
Maybe those schools should shut down.
Yes,
Trump
maybe they
said
should.
this. So we got to reform the colleges first. But on the surface, I don't think the blanket statement is incorrect. It just requires a lot of caveats. Trump said, we bring these people, they come into this country, they go to our universities, and then they leave and become billionaires. They become millionaires and billionaires in their country producing products that we could have had control of. And I'm like, yes, I would much prefer that. I don't want world war. I don't want U.S. Empirical hegemonic power. We don't need that. Trump is the businessman. We secure our borders, we bring our jobs back, and then we brain drain our adversaries across the world. So if they want the flying car, we're the only one who makes it. Why? The better America becomes, the more the smartest people from insert country want to be here instead. And that will make it impossible for anyone to compete. They'll have to come here, and then we get it. That can push back war. That can give America international dominance. It can create even petrodollar dominance without combat conflict or drone strikes. So in order to get there, Bannon, Loomer, and Massey are critical of it because right now you can't do it.
No, you
The
definitely
universities are
can't do it right
broken.
now.
They're woke. We don't want to bring those people in on that. However, I would say you reform it. You set an upper limit of maybe 1,000, maybe it's 10,000. Because if we're talking about like 200 to 500,000 people, 10,000 is not that big a deal. It's got to be extremely difficult. The waiting list is going to be 20 years, and we only go for the highest income earners. And then, as you mentioned, which degrees is it going to be?
I was going to say, no green cards for gender studies. No, thank
None.
you.
Nothing.
And then no remittances allowed. And limits on chain migration. Like, it can work if basically what we're saying is we don't want to give a dude who's going to invent the next, the flying car. We don't want to give that away.
My thing is just our immigration system is really broken. And so I don't think we should promise potential path to citizenship towards or permanent residency, whatever.
Yeah, it's not citizenship.
But if you get permanent residency, then you can move on to. I mean, ultimately, there are all kinds of doors open when you have the green card. But I just don't think that we should open this door until we have sealed the windows and, shored up our foundation, so to speak. I think we have enough issues, and I don't know that it would even benefit people who come here on a green card if we continue to have a country that's going into crisis because we cannot keep track of how many
Did
people
you
are
guys
here.
see how Alvin Bragg, who prosecuted Trump for 34 times of invoices and checks, he dropped all charges against all the agitators at Columbia who broke in and did graffiti and were violent and all of that stuff. All of those people, no charges.
Because the system is completely broken.
Yeah, it's completely broken, which is why I don't think there should be any kind of promises, regardless of how many caveats we could come up with.
I got to just go back to what we were talking about a little moment ago because, I had this big debate with on the culture war about social order decay and breakdown. And I'm just like, for the life of me, I cannot grasp how someone could be aware of what's going on in this country over the past 10 years and think we are not on a crash course with collapse. Because you go back 8 years, and the things I was saying, people were like, you're crazy. I'm like, I read an article that says civil war is possible in the United States. I'm like, it's nuts. That'll never happen. Then we had Charlottesville. No, that was a riot. That's no big deal. Okay. Then you had the Summer of Love riots.
2020, George Floyd.
Then you had Chaz
Which
Chop.
were really the COVID riots. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You had draconian lockdowns, forced medication. You had far leftists taking over cities. And I'm like, that escalated without resolution. Then you got January 6th because people wanted resolution to the crisis that we saw in summer and didn't get it. And now it's still happening. Now they're trying to lock Trump up.
And we're still waiting for the Fisher decision, which would really, if the Supreme Court ruled in favor, would vacate a lot of those.
The immunity question?
No, the Fisher.
Which one is that one?
So with it's a January 6th case.
Oh, right.
And it
The
basically
obstruction,
says,
right?
yeah, can you use, the congressional obstruction thing against protesters?
And if they just issued their ruling on presidential immunity and obstruction, we would actually be able to move forward quite.
But we can't. They're holding on to it, and it's going to be we have decision days, Wednesday and Thursday next week?
Yeah, it's going to be an October surprise or something. But looking at all this.
I
They have to release it
It'll
this
come
term.
next week.
They have to
because
release
the
it this
term
term.
ends next week. But
Okay.
I bet it'll be Thursday. They'll
It's
wait
going to
as
be
long
the
as they
end.
can.
We'll see as soon as they start putting up the fencing around the court.
Right, it's like the Roe decision, right? The Roe decision came on the very last day,
And we knew
Or
it was, and
the
at that
Dobbs
point, we knew it
decision.
was coming, I mean, and there's a lot of really fascinating cases, too, that are still not yet to be decided. Missouri, the free speech one, the Bailey case. Chevron is interesting. The going again on the Chevron case is interesting. So
I don't see how, when you look at all of this over the past 8 years, where it's just escalated nonstop to the point where we're now looking at the man who is the front runner to win, the favorite in the polls, the favorite in the fundraising, the celebrity superstar is facing prison time in numerous jurisdictions at the federal level and the state level. And people are saying, no, everything's fine and this is normal. I'm just like, man, at a certain point, you have to be like, something weird is happening to this country.
I think something weird is happening. And I do think that it's not the country it certainly seems far different from the country that I grew up in.
What is weird? Can we describe what the weird thing is, or is it too ambiguous to be?
Well, one thing that's weird is how if you are on the opposite political side as someone else, you can't have a conversation
You're
with
enemies.
them. You can't be friends. You can't be married.
Right.
Like there's all this stuff. I mean, when I was a kid, my stepmom was a Democrat and my dad was a Republican, and they argued about Walter Mondale and Ronald Reagan at the dinner table, and they would get rather heated, and then they would drink a gallon jug of Ernest and Julio Gallo or whatever, and watch comedy shows and go on their merry way or whatever it was that they did. I ignored them, but that you used to be able to do that. My grandfather would be of one opinion, my mom would have a different opinion. They would argue, and then we'd have dinner. And now it's like, if you disagree with your parents, you're supposed to go no contact and never speak to them again. If your best friend is dating a Republican, you're not supposed to talk to her, and you're supposed to tell her to break up with that guy. There's all of this kind of stuff. That's very different from when I was a kid. There's also this thing where we used to have cultural similarities. When I was a kid, we'd all watch the same shows on Thursday night. It was the Cosby Show. We all watched the Cosby Show, come into school, everyone had watched the same thing. You'd all talk about, what did you guys have for dinner last night? Because for the most part, we all sat there at a dinner table with whatever was left of our families and ate together, you know what I mean? And that kind of stuff is very different. And I think that there's a lot more cultural fragmentation. So there's a lot of things that are very different. No one really goes to work anymore, at a certain economic level.
It's definitely a pulling apart. It's amazing to think that, you can't compromise with your friend who thinks about anything differently than you politically. We talked at a poll somewhat recently. Back in the day, parents, if you were Catholic or religious, whatever, you would rather have your child marry someone of a different political party than of a different religion. And now that's not the case at all.
Well, now there's no religion. And we also have a weird homogenization, right? It used to be that if you went to different parts of the country, people had different accents. And that's different now, too. It's no matter where you go in the country, everyone kind of talks the same. There's a lot of the
buys
same
the same
slang.
stuff. We go to the same fast food places because they're kind of everywhere.
Yeah, there's nothing. There used to be regional differences. You'd go to the Grand Canyon and you'd find something, some kind of food you never ate before, and other than prairie oysters, it's not really. There's not that many differences.
And I think that is a problem right there that I see. Is it's okay to be different. It's that always kills me. And everything has gotten so visceral. Everything is just, I have friends that I've known for 20 years. I've been in the business with for 20 years, just no contact because of the last few years. And it's gotten to where, especially if you lean anywhere near the right, it's it's kind of terrible what is happening, and if you say anything, they automatically get personal. And I think that's different. Is I don't think we used to get so personal when it comes to politics or anything like that. But now it's name calling. And I think people are out there in America saying this. Why are we doing this?
And why is it one side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Y'all can hear me now?
Yeah.
Cool. There you are.
Yeah, I was like waiting. But anyway, yeah, no, it's weird. I feel like has it been the media, do you think, in the legacy media in the form of like clinging to the last, their death knell is like, we've put Trump on trial, we've done all these things, and they're kind of, are they using this like political stuff as like a way to keep people watching, and also is that stuff making people hyper polarized?
Yes. So I think it's a combination of factors, one of which is, a lot of people think MSNBC, for instance, is intentionally just Democrat, but it is in that they started looking at their viewership. They did A/B testing. CNN did the same thing. Jeff Zucker comes in and says, guys, when we have a panel talking Trump, ratings spike. When we talk flat news, no ratings. Look at MH370 when that happened. CNN went nuts.
Yeah.
They were sitting in a big old, well, I'll keep it family friendly. They were sitting around a table patting each other on the back about how good they were and how awesome the story was, and everybody wanted to watch. And then it eventually ended. They have nothing. Trump gave them this endless cycle where they're thinking like, wow, we're getting ratings, we're making money, keep going, but you can't keep going. What ends up happening is some once respected news outlet writes, Donald Trump said a racist thing.
Right.
And then they get 1 million hits. Then the next day they're like, well, we can't write the same article, but that one did really well. I know. Let's just say he's racist, and we'll compile things he said that we think are racist. Headline, Trump is a racist. That got 1 million views. Okay, well, we can't just call him a racist. Ooh, what if he's like the worst racist? He's like the worst we've ever seen.
What if he's a misogynist and a racist?
Yes.
What if he's a rapist because of some random thing in Bergdorf Goodman with an unspecified
well
Intersectional
before that. That's the politics and the lawfare of it. What I'm saying is in the media, in order to keep writing the same thing that's A/B tested, it's proven it's going to get hits, they can't run the same story twice, so they keep adding to it. And Trump said a racist thing turns into Trump is a racist, turns in he's the most racist guy we've ever seen too. I can't believe our president is racist. Our president is a white supremacist. Our president's praising neo-Nazis. Our president is as bad as Hitler. Our president is Hitler. Our president is worse than Hitler. That's where we're at with how the media attack Trump.
Because the media can make money off of fear-mongering, and the Democrats can use compliance.
But you overdose. The media injects and keeps upping the dosage until finally people go numb. And they just OD on Donald Trump as Hitler. It doesn't work anymore.
It reminds me of when you have a show that you like, the first couple seasons are good, and then by the 7th seasons, it's just off the rails. Every character's character arc is totally messed up, and everyone's interdated. It's very horrible and whatever. It went so far that they kind of ran out of steam, but they cannot end the show.
Jumping the shark. That's what it's called.
Yeah, I mean,
because the Fonz jumped over a shark on a motorcycle.
I was going to say that was the Fonz. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we're on the precipice of that peak of people because you see there's a lot of Democrats now coming back saying, well, no, wait a minute, this is kind of getting crazy here, and now we're the boomerang is coming back to Trump, and there's a lot of people that you would never think would make that switch. You have Democrats turning the other way now and getting on the other side, and I think that's why is because they went too far.
I have a correction. It was on skis, not a motorcycle. The Fonz jumped over a shark on skis.
Water skis.
And it's
At least
called.
that's somewhat more relevant to the
He was on a boat. It was like a little water.
They've run out of things to have these characters do. So The Simpsons ended, I think, on like the end of season 9. I guess everyone says the end of The Simpsons was when people found out that Principal Skinner was named Armin Tamzarian.
Yeah, right.
He's the principal. He lives with his mom, and then one day they were like, "Let's just make it like he's a different guy." I guess it's like we got nothing left to write about.
Weird. See, the
Now
opposite.
Grandpa Simpson is gay, and Bart hates feminists. Yeah.
The opposite of this is Law and Order SVU, which I think is on season 45, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my!
It's gone on for so long, but also now you can predict everything they're going to say, right?
Do you know why SVU? All of them have been able to last so long because they're just based off of criminal records.
Right.
You don't need writers to be like, what did he do now? When you can just be like, pull up the records, let's get a story.
Yeah, but now, back in the day, all kinds of different plot points. It maybe was kind of crazy, maybe not super accurate to law enforcement. But now I bet every time you watch the show, you know exactly who's going to be the criminal because it has gotten so woke. Like it's adopted the plot points that everyone else has.
It's the white guy.
Every single time. There was some show, I think it was 24. I remember one, like Christmas, my family's all together. I was back from college and my brother was like, oh, watch this crime show with me. And my stepmom and I were watching it. And after the first 2 episodes, we were just playing this game. Like, I bet it's the white guy. And it was every time. And he shut it off because he's like,
wow,
you're ruining the show. But it was like, look, you're not allowed
he's the ensign.
It's the white guy.
Y'all need to watch that show Evil on CBS. Because the bad guy, so like the good guys are Catholics, but they're like it's an interracial group of mystery solving assessors, they call them, for the Catholic Church. It is funny that they're Catholic, but the bad guy is this white stodgy academic guy with glasses, and he like grooms a mass shooter by telling him he's got to be a man and he hates women and women are bad. He tells him this is your red pill moment. He tells him to go on 4chan, and it's like,
I wonder who's that writing room is voting for.
That's right. And then I mentioned this in the Culture War. It was really funny. The episode I'm watching, because there's 4 seasons of it. On season 3, one of the main characters is a woman. She has 4 kids, and she's telling her daughters, like, basically saying, "Don't lie to me." So she's like, "I'm going to write down the 10 commandments of the family, and commandment number 1 is thou shalt not lie to mom." And then one girl goes, "Can we lie to other people?" And she goes, "No." And then one girl goes, "But what if it's like we're hiding Jews with Hitler or immigrants with Trump?" And then she's like, "Those are good points, but we'll talk about that later." And I'm like, comparing hiding immigrants, like Trump is like Hitler to the Jews. That's what they did on CBS.
I just saw
Yeah,
this
it's
clip
crazy.
from that medical show, New Amsterdam.
I saw that too.
Yes, where the guy
hell was
is like,
that?
"I've been talking to your son. Where else?" And mom is like so confused, and he's like, he's feeling all this pressure and nothing or whatever. Your son's cancer was caused by racism.
By internalized racism.
Wait, what?
I'm not even kidding. I will send you the link. It's the most ridiculous thing. And they presented this like, this is a serious,
That's like
sitcom medical show.
the Acolyte star who put out her little diss track on Instagram was talking about how she wasn't going to let herself be one of the people that gets sick from being oppressed. It's like, how are you have Disney salary, you were in the Hunger Games, you make all this money.
Ma'am, I do
You
not
get
think
sick
you
from
are.
being
I don't
oppressed and from
understand.
being an oppressor.
Yeah. So she's,
Both of them
she's,
give you cancer.
And she's out there like doing a little dance and stuff, looking like Ice Spice.
Oh, well, I'm glad that she's so oppressed that she can do that with her audience
Right?
and her extra
Exactly.
time.
And she's able to dance around the streets of New York, and nothing bad happened to her for the whole time she was shooting the video.
Classic oppressed woman. I'm
Somebody
telling you.
disabled couldn't do that.
Well, this is
exactly.
the thing about the
It was ableist,
oppressed.
Carter. I think you're
I
correct.
believe it was.
People to the privileged, everything looks like oppression. If you are on top of the mountain, you can only go down.
But
if
it's
you are at the North
supposed to-
Pole, it is all south from there.
But that was the point. That was the point of critical race theory, and that was the point of woke. The entire point was to demand that everyone wear racism-colored glasses so that you see racism and oppression every single place that you look. And that's all that they see.
Wealthy American liberals with moderate to high incomes in big cities complaining that they're being oppressed. And then they actually make the argument that Oprah Winfrey is more oppressed than a white homeless veteran begging for
Right.
change.
Yeah.
That's
And
their
well,
worldview.
she's oppressed by the diet industry because she has always felt so bad about her weight, and it's always been such a noose around the neck for her, like an albatross. That's the word I'm looking for. It's been an albatross.
I heard about this term called fat liberation, and it was someone arguing that being fat is just like any other disability, and if you exclude them from the ableism movement, then you're actually.
She was the Dove
irritated.
person, right? Didn't
What
she
are we
like?
talking about? Oh, I heard about this on a podcast, and I was sort of
Okay.
thinking like, no, I don't think that you are having the same problems as like people who live in major cities that cannot accommodate, that are dependent on subway transportation, like New York City, but there are very few elevator shafts where you can get your wheelchair down. Like, I don't think you're on their level of needing the society to pay attention to something that might make it you able to live there.
Right.
Yours is maybe somewhat self-inflicted, I would argue, but who knows?
You were saying something earlier too about about how people are kind of addicted to attention online. Do you think that's feeding into it as well, as far as the political stuff? Because like you said, if you say something about Trump, you're going to get more views. If you say something that is that this is oppressive when everybody knows it isn't, it's going to get more views, and it all kind of goes into the same tank. If you think about
Yeah.
it, it's going into the attention.
The attention
Tank.
tank. Well, also Trump broke everybody, right?
Yeah.
Remember, it was like the day after the election, and I was in like a Fairway Market, which is woker than Whole Foods in Brooklyn, and people were crying, you know. And you know how the music plays at the grocery store. So Sweet Home Alabama was playing, and this older white lady walks up to a staff person who like had a hijab on or something and was like, "Don't you think this is in poor taste? Can we turn this off?"
Oh, are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. That really happened.
This is Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Everything is offensive. I think it's funny because I read a story about how Ray Bradbury was giving like a college lecture or something, and they were talking about Fahrenheit 451 and the question of like, what is it about? And when he explained that it's about how when everyone is offended, the censors have to censor everything, the students argued with him saying, no, it's about government censorship. And he's like, what? No, it's about how there's a passage in it where it's like, if you insulted a cat, you offended cat owners, so you couldn't say that. And if you insulted dogs, dog owners got mad. And if you said anything about the trade unionists, the unions got mad, so you couldn't say that. So everything must be shut down because everyone's pissed off all the time.
Right.
That's where we're basically moving towards.
We're like at the crux of that and that Vonnegut story where the ballet dancer has to wear weights because it's not fair.
I feel like we've gone
Harrison
past
Bergeron.
that.
That's the one, yeah.
Is it Bergeron?
Yeah.
It's like you could be saving a puppy and somebody would have something bad to say about it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
How dare you?
That's the joke. Like Trump could run into a burning. If Trump ran into a burning building,
Like Cory Booker did in Newark, New Jersey.
and ran out, clothes singed, covered in soot, carrying 2 babies, and handed them to doctors, they would find a way to insult him and say Donald Trump risked the lives of those babies because he wanted to look like a hero. He should have left the firemen to do their job.
Right.
Instead,
That's what it would be. That's the
Yep.
that's the anti
Pedophile Donald Trump
we call that
gets 2 babies.
the austere scholar. That's what we refer to it as. Remember when Washington Post referred to what was the guy's ISIS guy as an austere scholar?
What?
This guy who it wasn't Khalid. What was the guy's name?
It was hold on, I'll look it up.
Right. It's been so long.
Also, I'm
I
always
think I
afraid
know
to
the name, but
mispronounce
I don't
this
want to get it wrong. Baghdadi.
name. Baghdadi, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Washington Post criticized and lampooned over a Baghdadi headline. The, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. They said he was an austere religious scholar. Yes, he was also a murdering terrorist who kidnapped and raped women relentlessly. And they decided to call him an austere scholar because they didn't want to give Donald Trump any kind of win over his military campaign. It's amazing. They deny that Donald Trump crossed the DMZ into North Korea. I've mentioned this to so many people and say that never happened. You're lying, because they cannot accept Trump did good things.
Right. They don't they find ways to say that the Abraham Accords were bad, you know, even though that was like a really major peace agreement in a place where there's now war.
Do you think it makes people more emboldened to speak positively about Trump or other, conservative figures they admire, or does it make people withdraw? I grew up in a really blue state. I grew up in Connecticut, and I was always conservative. I've been this way for a long time, I guess. And it was something that you always teeter on the edge of, especially when you're young and in school and you're trying to navigate that and be like, I don't know if I'm trying to start conflict all the time, but also that was a very different culture than if the media is up against you all the time, all of your coworkers are against you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
do people withdraw from talking about it, or do they talk about it more?
I think it really depends on the person. I think some people will talk about it more, where other people will just be like, I'm going to keep that to myself, or maybe
Yeah.
stop having
I feel
opinions.
like people are almost like afraid.
Yeah. We were
Especially
talking
people
about
like
that
my
before
age.
the show because
Yeah.
your song came out and you had people that you know from your hometown who were like, what were they saying? You were telling me that they were like offended that you released the song.
Some of like the worst things. It was just like, we shouldn't care what she thinks. Just like people that you wouldn't like suspect to say such things. Like, they can have their own opinion, but the second that I do, it's terrible. Like, I'm wrong. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that happens. When you put yourself out there and you take a chance, you're always going to have people who are just instant detractors and saying that you shouldn't have a right to speak your mind or make the artwork that you want to make.
And if they disagree with you on one issue, everything about your character is bad.
Yeah, they
right?
judge your whole character based on one thing you believe in.
Yeah.
Like back then, like you were talking earlier, like it never used to be like that. Like a Democrat could be married to a Republican, and they talk about it at dinner, and it would be over with. But now it's like some people commenting on my song, it was just like, I completely don't like her character anymore just because of that, and they don't know me.
Just because you wrote a song defending the unborn.
Right. Me and Chris were talking about this before the show, but like it used to be you just wrote songs and released them, and that was called art. And like now it's
I
different.
remember that. I missed that.
Yeah, art.
Now it's
I was
politics.
saying, we were saying that it was, when an artist actually would put out a song that just reflected who they were as a person and who they were as an artist, that was just called an artist.
Right. You didn't.
And now, God forbid, you do that.
Well, now you have to be an activist artist. You have
Right.
to. You have to. You have to create propaganda. Otherwise, no one.
And you can't like
and
art
that's the
made
worst
by
stuff.
and you can't make art made by anyone who represents the wrong thing, right?
Right.
You can't distance yourself from being like, well, I like this song, but they vote differently. Like you have to
Right.
comply on every level, and everyone has to be in the exact.
Well,
same
if you're a
level.
progressive, and so that's
Yeah,
sort of the
that's so
interesting
true.
thing, and that's why I think you have conservatives, and the conservative sort of movement isn't a machine. What you're talking about, Hannah Claire, is basically a machine. Everybody's in lockstep. Everyone's going to go along with the exact same perspective. You're going to shun anyone who disagrees with you, even on the most minute and small thing. And conservatives are just like, oh, I like Taylor Swift, and I like,
Right.
Debussy, and I like whatever else, and I like modern art, and I like Renaissance art, and I like fashion by this company, and I also will shop over here. And so conservatives don't use their sort of power in the same way. And we did see in the past couple of years conservatives like changing that around, and Target felt the brunt of that, Disney felt the brunt of that, and of course Bud Light, felt the brunt of that. And now you're seeing with some of the polling, Democrats are feeling some of that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think as conservatives, we're more of the, let me do you, and let me do me, and you do you, and let's go on with it, But I think on the other side, sometimes, like just for instance, I was doing this show. It's been a few years ago. And I was waiting in the back of the show, in the green room, and there was other people who worked there. I'm not going to say where it was, but
say where it was.
but there was this people getting married, and there was at this booth, and I was just tuning up, and it wasn't my show. I was actually asked to be on the show, so it wasn't my thing. Anyway, so this girl was being married. She goes, "Didn't you get a something online to be a preacher?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I just wanted to do it," and he said it really like screamed it. "I just wanted to do it to piss off the Christian effing Republicans," And it was like a room full of 8 people. He didn't know any of us, and my dad just passed away, and let me tell you, he almost met a redneck.
Would you have said
That
something
day.
to him? Like if you weren't would you have said something to him?
It was all I could do, and I sat there and said, "This is not my show. This is not, I don't want to mess this up for my buddy who wanted me on." So we did the show, and after the show, I went looking for the guy just to tell him, where that went for me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find him, but I told the manager, I was like, man, I told him what happened. I said, I would never do that. I would never do that in a crowd like that with my friends. Yeah, whatever. But he had no idea that how deep that went with me.
Do you think it's because he was around a lot of people who were like, yeah,
Oh,
Christian
absolutely.
Republicans are bad, so he felt like it was a socially normal thing to say?
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot. I think that it's just more. They're more, like on the left, you're more emboldened because you're surrounded by people who you have to think like that. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you're shunned. Where with us, I think it's a little more. There's a little bit more back and forth.
I think there's more empathy too.
There's more empathy. That's correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's individualism versus collectivism.
When we were talking about,
yeah.
you're just an artist, you just put out music, it was art. It got me thinking about like Rage Against the Machine.
Oh yeah.
Like they were huge. Were they called activists and conspiracy theorists by the press when they would put out a song?
No, they weren't.
But I mean, I pulled up their lyrics to Guerrilla Radio, and it's like indistinguishable from the message of Alex Jones at the time. Mm-hmm. But they would call Alex Jones a far right. At the time, they weren't really saying a lot of far right stuff. Then all of a sudden, by today's standards, Rage Against the Machine is pro-war machine. They work with the
Yeah,
Democrats
they sure
basically
are.
on voter initiative type stuff. Like, not literally, but I mean, like, go vote. We're on the left. Support Ukraine. That kind of stuff.
Put on your mask. Take your vaccine.
Which is crazy because it used to be the opposite of that. Like
Yeah.
there was a lot of like Bob Dylan and all those guys back in what was it, the 60s or something was against war. A lot of songs were.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things changed too when you had the progressive left really embrace Obama, because what you had was a political movement that had been anti-authoritarian, suddenly finding a leader who they rallied around. And so then they were like, oh, now we adore the president. Now we adore
We
everything.
love the establishment.
We love the establishment. We love everything that he's telling us to do. And so now we're going to do it. So the group of people who had been saying their whole time, you know, the boomers and the hippies and whatever, question authority, changed their minds and said, you know, embrace authority. And the Obama administration really, you know, really grabbed power that way. Grabbed power over people, not even necessarily just institutionally, but power over people. And so then when Trump came in, it was such a betrayal because these were the people who wanted to love the White House. They wanted to love the, you know, leader. And suddenly they couldn't love the leader. So they were totally broken. That's why they started resistance before they even knew what any of the policies were, like total morons, you know? That's just so ridiculous.
It always makes me think of, you know, the aspect of politics that's just team sports, right? We like the White House when our guy, you know, if he's on the blue ticket and he's got a D on his shirt, you know, he's the one. But if it's those red guys with the Republican name, then we're out. And I think that is so indicative of the herd mentality that so many of the institutions in America right now want people to rely on. They don't want you to think critically about like, oh, well, I like this policy from this one guy, but, you know, on the other side of the aisle, this guy's policy is pretty good, you know, because it's much easier for them to work. Everyone says, oh, well, bipartisanship, and we need the bipartisanship. No, they don't. They
don't
want
want
their
that
party to be
anymore.
completely in power and every single one of their bills to pass with no help from the other side because it's easier for them.
Democrats want one token Republican like Adam Kinzinger or Liz Cheney so they can call it a bipartisan bill. We represent the people. We're bipartisan. It's like, no, you're not. Shut up.
Well, we saw that with January 6th where, what was it? Who was the House Speaker at the time? Was it McCarthy? And McCarthy wanted to sit Jim Jordan and Jim Banks on the January 6th committee. And Nancy Pelosi said, absolutely not. We're not going to seat them, and offered seats to Cheney and Kinzinger. And so you had the Republicans saying, we're not going to seat anybody. McCarthy said, we're not going to seat anybody then. This is a totally illegitimate committee. And now for some reason, they're still honoring those subpoenas. Like, why didn't they rescind them right away? You know, it's like... I don't understand.
It almost makes me wish they had seated somebody who would have really held everything up.
But they couldn't. I mean, Pelosi would not approve anybody, any of the hardliners, to sit on that committee. And somehow they let that committee go forward anyway. That was a big mistake.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know if they had the power to change it, but
they
should
might
have protested at every chance they got.
Well, they're filing now to basically
Right.
nullify a lot of what they did. So
I hope that they actually do it in time. I mean, Bannon's supposed to report to prison in Connecticut on July 1st?
Peter Navarro's already in prison
He
in
already
Miami.
is. Yeah, he sure is.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've arrested, what is it, like a dozen or so Trump associates. Lawyers are being threatened with jail. I don't know how you look at Trump's lawyers going to prison. His lawyers
Yeah.
for offering him legal advice. I don't see how you look at that and you think like this ends with Trump and Biden shaking hands and calling it good game. I don't see that.
But Rachel Maddow is like, hey, they're going to do this completely new thing that we definitely don't do,
They're
and they're going to lock
prosecute
us
me.
up. What are you talking
For
about?
lying or something. I don't know. What did I ever do?
It's different when we go after the former president's lawyers. He deserves it because he is so bad. Like, the logic is so ridiculous because so much of it is personality based, right? The fact that the
That's
Biden
the issue
administration
they have. Trump has really moderate policies.
Yeah, well, and the fact that the Biden administration has reintroduced so many of his border policies, they kind of quietly are like, oh, we made this big scene out of doing something, but actually bad consequences there. It's like
Well,
admitting
they're pretending that they're doing it.
pretending they're right, exactly. And I think ultimately this is the real issue, which is like no one wants to be like, we made a mistake, we went too far on that one, because they have built this narrative that electing Trump for second term would be the end of the nation as we know it, and no one's life would get better, and they have to keep that door closed to keep anything that they have said in the last decade legitimate.
Right. And it's not legitimate.
I mean, again, this is the same party that says like, well, it's, you see every statement from Joe Biden right now. It's like, well, it's the congressional Republicans that are doing all these bad things.
Listen, they think men are women. So, I mean, they are just liars. You can't
they're
believe
liars and
anything.
illogical, but we still have to deal with them because they're there.
They think like, 12-year-old girls should be able to get abortions without telling anybody about it or, without telling their parents. They think illegal immigrants should just be able to hang out in the country until their court date when they won't be able to find them or deport them anyway.
Thought they gave them phones, though, so they could get hold of them.
Yeah, but what's been going on is people are ditching these phones so that they can't be tracked.
No way.
I
People
know.
came here
Who would have
illegally,
thought
who didn't
that?
want to register with the government, don't
Millions
want to be
of
tracked.
dollars for this phone
This is a crazy
program.
thing.
I know.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's so logical that we could have seen it coming.
I wonder why they don't want to be tracked after ditching their IDs at the border so that they could assume a new identity.
Well, they're really scared. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Well, they just want Buffalo Wild Wings.
Right? Who doesn't,
That's it.
frankly?
That's what it
Who
comes
doesn't?
down to.
That's an actual quote from an illegal immigrant who came to the United States, interviewed by LA Times. They said, "Why are you coming here?" And they said, I miss Buffalo Wild Wings. And it was at that point I realized they really are just like us.
Yeah.
Have Buffalo Wild Wings responded to that?
I don't know,
Buffalo
but I
Wild
love
Wings invested
B-dubs.
heavily wherever they were.
Dude, I
Yeah.
just come on, everybody, you got to empathize with that. Like, wow, damn,
sure.
you can't come in, but I do understand why you want to be here because B-dubs is awesome.
They had a coyote with a sponsor. To come in, it's like Buffalo
he's-
Wild Wings.
I love this story because Mexico has Buffalo Wild Wings, and so when this caravan was coming to the U.S. and an LA Times reporter was like, "What are you coming for?" One guy said, "I want my PlayStation back, which I left in America when they deported me." And then another person was like, I miss Buffalo Wild Wings. And I'm like, yo, I've been to Mexico City and I went to Buffalo Wild Wings. And it was fantastic. I've
Was
never
it
had
better than Buffalo Wild Wings in the
I've
US?
never had a bad experience at Buffalo Wild Wings.
That's good to know.
They have not paid me to say that. It's just how do you go wrong with chicken and barbecue sauce and like all the different sauces?
cheese, you do
I'm
the
like, you
blue
give me.
cheese dip.
I don't do blue cheese.
Ooh, no, ranch all the way.
Ranch.
I like the blue
but they have like 10 sauces, and I'm like, I could have chicken in 10 different sauces.
I don't even like the
I
sauce.
understand.
America is
Great.
an amazing country, let me tell you.
But as an aside, this is why illegal immigrants want to come here.
Right.
I use the Buffalo Wild Wings thing because it's kind of funny. It's like, haha, we get it. Yeah, but they like Pizzeria Uno's, man. They like KFC. They like Portillo's
All
in
these things
Chicago.
are good. I mean, these are all good things.
We have fat homeless people.
Right, yeah.
They're like, I gotta get that.
Well, this is why it's
That is
taking so
true.
long for our civilization to collapse. I mean, we built it really big, on top of like a mountain of chicken bones.
So many different sauce bottles. You would not even believe.
That's what the real plastic in the
garlic
ocean is.
parmesan.
I was gonna say the garlic
Yes.
parmesan. That's my favorite.
Oh yeah,
I'm so hungry right now.
It is so Friday night.
And now all these illegal immigrants are coming here. The reality of it is we're laughing and joking, but I really do think that hits at the heart of why America's awesome. Variety, options, low cost.
Oh, sure. We have so many great things.
A Chinese food restaurant, every street corner, a Starbucks. You wake up, you get coffee for lunch, you get General Tso's chicken, and for dinner you get Thai food or you get Indian food. It's just all here.
Well, that's a funny thing about when you're hanging out with your friends and you're trying to figure out what you're going to eat. You don't say like, "Oh, do you want to go to this restaurant or that?" You say like, "Do you want Indian, Chinese, Korean? Do you want soul food?"
Korean barbecue.
So good.
Oh man.
I always want Mexican food, so it's
Me
like,
too.
oh.
Yeah, those chips and queso.
I make the
Oh,
best
yeah.
tacos. Right
We have
now.
Salvadorian restaurants where we are right now.
Really?
Yeah, and it's
That's cool.
awesome because
Oh, yeah.
a
Do you
lot.
know
It's a
that
lot of
El-
arepas instead of tortillas.
A lot of people, a lot of Salvadorans in the U.S. are going back to El Salvador.
Yep.
Because
I met
things are
one.
going
Great.
really well.
I love to hear it.
I met a guy.
And it's like reverse brain drain, which I think is great. I mean, I would love to see South America really,
Right. This is what I
have
think
a
about
whole bunch of
asylum all
Buffalo
the time.
Wild Wings. and
If
stuff.
asylum was really like, hey, your country's going through a rough time, and eventually, in 2 years, we could relocate you back. You need to stay safe now. I would maybe possibly consider being open to it. But the way asylum works right now is like, let's bring in a lot of people under asylum who are just staying here.
who are not actually qualified for asylum.
not qualified
that's
for
the
asylum.
thing that immigration attorneys will tell you is once they get to the court date, turns out that those who actually end up in court are not qualified.
And also, everything remains chaotic abroad, and then we were like, we gotta be involved there, and probably send them some money, and maybe we should
Right.
send some secret troops there, and it's just, what point are we saying
Don't we
this
have
system
guys
is
in
not
Ukraine
working?
now, basically?
I mean, we have 3,000 people in Jordan. I'm sure we have people in Ukraine.
Seems like we should send American food businesses to Mexico to open there and bring our culture to Mexico.
I mean, all of these things do exist abroad. There are probably people you could talk to who are like, oh, we choose not to invest there because crime is really bad or something else. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of American countries go to El Salvador because so much has changed, right? They're saying...
Well, and that would be great. I mean, there's, it would be great to revitalize these places, especially once they get their crime under control.
We are here looking at Mexico City. Let's turn satellite on.
Are these all the Buffalo Wild Wings?
No, these are KFCs.
Oh, KFC?
A lot of KFCs.
Nice.
A lot of KFCs. Let's just... what else do we search for?
Burger King.
Yeah, I was going to say Burger King.
Well, that's sort of a gimme.
We like Taco Bell.
Yeah, Taco Bell. Are there
I don't think Taco Bell is in Mexico.
Let's find out.
Okay, look at all these Burger Kings. Mexico City's awesome.
I have always wanted to go there.
What about Culver's?
Oh
my God.
No.
Taco Inn. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like good tacos.
Yeah, Taco
Damn.
Bell probably tastes horrible.
I bet those are good.
Well, the story is that Taco Bell tried to open in Mexico, calling themselves American food, and nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy who started
pizza?
Taco Bell, I think his name was Frank Bell. His last name was Bell.
There we go.
Initially wanted to open a hamburger
Buffalo
stand.
Wild Wings. Look at that.
They're all over too. There's 1, 2, 3. Let's see, 4. No, that's different. It looks like there's 5. No, that's different. It looks like there's 4.
There's a
4
Wild
Buffalo
Wings.
Wild Wings.
That's a lot for a city, right?
Mexico City's pretty big. So, but it's there. It is there for you. And you can have all of the sauces. Did you know that you can actually...
All the sauces.
You get garlic parmesan, and then you can still dip it in barbecue sauce. You don't need to
like
come to the United States.
That's America.
Stay there and do it.
I do like the double dip.
Well, that's what really bugged me is because like the caravan came
Salsa
here.
and guacamole.
Mexico offered asylum to everyone. They said, you will all receive asylum in Mexico. And they were a boo. And then they yelled, who wants to keep going? And they were like, yeah. It's like, Mexico is awesome. Like, Mexico City is not a bad place.
No, it doesn't seem bad.
It's nice. They've got nice areas. They got bad areas like every city. And they have Buffalo Wild Wings. I get it. But they also have Burger King. They have McDonald's. They have Starbucks. You go to Mexico City.
Probably have
you
some
go to the
good
mall.
local places.
But it's like people love America so much that they will skip over this just to come here.
Yeah. There's not large caravans of immigrants trying to get in some of these countries. It's always us.
Well, or the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a huge
There's
a huge situation in the UK or Germany.
I want to do this. I want to jump to one last story before we get to the music and everything because this one I just found really funny. From Mediaite Plus, AOC hits back at neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes after he praises her claim that Democrats only support Israel out of fear of AIPAC. Okay, well, what actually happened is this is really funny. Nick Fuentes tweeted, okay, we got to start at the beginning. Also, I also don't believe that Nick Fuentes is a neo-Nazi. I believe they're just attacking him over that. He's an America First anti-Israel personality. I think you can just call him what he is. So AOC tweets, an unspoken secret in Congress is that much of the reflexive, blind, unconditional vote support for nearly any Israeli government action isn't from actual agreement. It's from fear. Reps are terrified of this, of AIPAC, so they don't vote their conscience, they vote their fear. Fuentes says AOC is more America First than 99% of Republicans. You cannot deny Nick Fuentes complimented AOC over her position on Israel. We have even had people who have super chatted to us that they would vote for Joe Biden if Joe Biden came out opposed to Israel. That is how many of these people feel when it comes to Israel.
But being called America First is not a compliment for AOC.
She said, you are a white supremacist and I want nothing to do with you nor the world you imagine. I believe in a multiracial democracy, one of economic rights, civil liberties, and that affirms the working class and the rights of women and LGBTQ people. These are not small differences. They are irreconcilable. White supremacy is a scourge and must be disavowed in all places. What's really funny is all Nick said was that she was right.
Right.
And
That
she
was
lost
such
her
an uncalled
mind.
for response. Like,
She lost her mind over
That's
this.
because she lost her mind because AOC believes that your supporters are indicative of who you are personally.
Yeah.
So she's not comfortable being supported by someone that, she perceives of in these terms.
Yeah, I'm going to reference Gilmore Girls here, but she says, get off my side. Like,
Right,
I
yeah.
don't want you to be the person supporting me because I think that you will make me look less appealing to my own voters, regardless of what the statement is, right? She could have ignored this. She opted to respond because, number one, she thinks dunking on Nick will, I don't know if you can call this a dunk, but like responding to Nick like this will make her seem even more like this wonderful person. She's going to, talk down to this terrible, terrible guy from the internet. You know what I mean? Like, it's so stupid and performative. She could have let it just roll off her. Instead, she is so afraid to be associated with him that she has to respond like in hysterics.
She gave her virtue signal bona fides, but it won't matter because she criticized Israel and she will continue, and Fuentes will praise her for doing so. Fuentes has his views, and AOC criticizing Israel and AIPAC aligns with what Fuentes, his worldview, and America First individuals, Groypers or otherwise, are not afraid of being aligned with AOC. They don't care. AOC is terrified of being aligned with Nick Fuentes, however, because they are tribalists who care more about what their tribe thinks of them than what they actually are concerned with politically.
Well, and this also speaks to what we were talking about before, where it used to be that you could share some views with a person and not others. And now it's like, if you don't subscribe to a person's entire program, you don't want anything to do with them. You don't even, you don't even want to share a tweet with them.
She probably reported him to X for harassment. She was like,
How dare
this
him.
is bullying. He has to get away from me. I'm not associated with this. Right. This is probably an emergency meeting for her staff, right? While they all sat there and drafted this. And she was like, we cannot let this stand.
There was
Oh my God.
mascara down the face.
This is why there's a lot of people who claim Fuentes is a Fed, which I don't think is true. But it's because the positions that he take to any marketing person would, okay, you go to anybody who works in marketing and they're going to be like, well, if you were trying to hurt your cause, do what Nick is doing. Coming out and saying this about AOC puts AOC in panic mode.
Right.
If Nick's real plan was to harm the Democratic position, you would do exactly that. The idea of coming out and saying, so one of the criticisms is that he calls himself America First. That's the name of his group, his conference. And so what does America First mean? It means America spends money on itself. It doesn't go to foreign wars. It takes care of its own borders before dealing with anyone else around the world. Then Nick Fuentes gets up on stage, figuratively, and he yells, independence from Israel. And instantly now, the idea of supporting America is now attached to the brand that is just Israel bad. Well, there are a lot of people in America who don't really care all that much about Israel, and they care about America. But what Fuentes does merges the PR campaign. Again, not saying it's intentional, but it's fairly obvious this is detrimental to the efforts of protecting America. This is why AOC is freaking out. It's bad for her to be in alignment with Nick, no matter what Nick does. It's the same is true for the idea of being America First. It is detrimental to that idea of being associated with Nick Fuentes. Whether it's his fault or the media's fault or otherwise doesn't matter.
Right. And I mean, it works for Nick to be able to point out, hey, this is actually an American First position, because any one of her supporters that was like, I believe in this, I think they'll probably panic and freak out. But there might be someone who is like, oh, is that what America First means? To be against this? Oh. And it might just linger there, right? It may not change hearts and minds immediately, but to point out that, this is actually what we were talking about or whatever, it's interesting what the long-term effect could be.
Here's a great AI-generated image.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I
That's just in response.
know. Yeah.
Ooh, Melania only.
How would you ever throw over Melania?
No, the former
got such
supermodel.
great style.
No.
That's crazy.
I think one of the worst parts of Trump's first term in office was the way they treated Melania. Vogue has offered every first lady a cover, but they didn't offer the supermodel a cover because she's married to
No one would
Orange
dress
Man
her
Bag.
too. You ended up with what's his name, Project Runway winner Christian Siriano being like, "I will dress you."
Which I think is cool.
Madam First Lady. I did too. I thought it was cool too. And I think Dolce & Gabbana continued dressing
Yeah, a couple
her
people
as
did.
well.
I think
Yeah.
she did some stuff with maybe Ralph Lauren. I could be totally wrong there.
Well, Ralph Lauren is doing he always does the
Olympics.
Olympic uniforms.
which are weird this year.
They
though.
are I'm not into the jeans. You can't really run in jeans.
No, it's very weird. The outfit that they're going to wear for opening ceremonies is blazer and button down on top,
With the
jeans
jeans.
on bottom. It
Yeah.
looks like they.
I was the first wealthy man in America to wear that. Remember from The Simpsons? Do you guys remember that?
Nope.
Anyway.
No, I think that this is all sort of a similar thing, like bringing up Melania and the fact that these designers are like, I can't be associated with you because your husband is terrible. Even though actually, if they had stayed private citizens, they would have begged to dress her, right? The wife of Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is something Americans get tired of, though. This sin by association. I think people start to say like it's too complicated and everybody is a target at all times, and I just want to be able to move forward with my life.
Well,
like
we were opposed to at our founding. That's why like you don't go to prison for your parents' debts.
We had Richard Spencer on the Culture War today. They called him the most prominent white nationalist back in the first Trump, era or whatever. And I think it's funny because, he never really was that big.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not kidding. Like, how many followers did he have on Twitter? Like 80,000. It's like a lot of people, sure, but there were people with millions who were supporting Trump, but they wanted him to be their boogeyman for the way he looked and the way he spoke. It fit their media narrative, and they went after him. And this is not for me to say that, like, I agree with him politically. Of course I don't. That's the point of having him on a debate show. And then after the show ended, he said, "Can I get a selfie?" I said, "Yeah." And I'm like, I am so sick of the far left and the stupid games they play of like, you hosted this person, that means you support him. There was I interviewed some alt-right guys back in like 2016, and there's a picture of me at a restaurant where they were all eating, and I'm sitting there, and they're like, "We got him! He's sitting there eating food." And I was like, "That's right. I was." And they're like, "Look, he's hiding." And I'm like, "No, I'm sitting at a table." I don't care. It's always been the stupidest thing to me that this is the world they try to live in. And I'm like, dude, we've had communists come through these doors, and I've taken pictures with them. We've had conservatives, and Richard Spencer came on the show, and I got a picture with him too. You can accuse me of being, I'm going to interview as many people as I can. I interviewed a former Soviet general once. I am not a Soviet nor a communist.
Cool. How did that go?
It was interesting.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
In Ukraine, actually. And I also interviewed a Brazilian favela gang leader. This does not make me a Brazilian favela gang member.
But are you
or
sure?
an advocate for gang members.
I
it's so stupid.
I think the problem is, we should want journalists or people in media to want to sit down with someone who's completely different from them, not to like score points, but to be like, tell me what your positions are. Let's spell this out. Let's have this conversation and understand what's going on. But instead, especially mainstream media is so afraid that if they have anyone come on that doesn't fit their narrative and any of their points make sense, that they are then going to face some sort of backlash, or that they are emboldening whatever thought crime they think that person is committing.
I think it's actually a threat to them. I think it's actually, shows like this, shows like Joe Rogan that actually sit down with both sides, doing the thing that they don't do. It's actually journalism the way that it used to be, and now it's gotten so far away from that. And like we were saying before, it's gotten so one-sided that shows like this and shows like Joe's, it's killing them because it's showing both sides, and they can't say, well, he said this. Well, if you're talking to someone for 2 hours straight instead of getting a 3-second clip, then you actually know the whole story.
Right.
And it's a detriment to them.
Do you think that people want their news to expose them to new information or to confirm their own bias, though?
Yeah, well, I think they want to confirm their own.
Journalism used to be different, where it was about like, here's this brand new take, here's another side, here's something you've maybe never heard of or seen before, or here's a difficult conversation I'm having with someone who I don't see eye to eye with. But more and more, I think MSNBC, right? They don't want their viewers to click away when they're like, oh, I don't think that person's saying something they should. So they'll just say, well, what do you want to hear? And we'll play it for you all day long, 24/7.
Right, absolutely. And it's just when their jobs actually should be like what I said before, hear both sides and you make up your own mind instead of the bias thing that we have now on both sides.
Right. It just being like, here's the information, you decide. They don't want that anymore.
Right.
Which I think people should be insulted by, because basically
absolutely
you're too stupid to think about this critically.
Yeah.
We think you'll come to the wrong conclusion, and we can't allow that.
That's actually the position of the corporate press. When the New York Times wrote that article saying, stop thinking critically.
Right.
Don't do it. It'll lead you down rabbit holes you don't want to go. They're like, please stop not being brainwashed because we're trying so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's why I think culture is so important, because a lot of people get their messaging through art.
Yeah.
They don't read the news all day, every day. They're busy. They're fixing pipes. They're building houses. They're fixing cars. They're paving roads. They're working in hospitals. They're treating the ill. And so their entire day is going to be, look, man, we just got done laying a concrete foundation. I did not follow anything in politics today. And then what happens? They turn on the TV show, and on the TV, they're saying Donald Trump is going to start putting migrants in concentration camps. And so their worldview is crafted around these psychopaths in Hollywood, at least the narratives they're pushing and their movies. But I think then, you know, what's happened, especially with podcasts and stuff, is people are working and they're playing these shows in the background. And so they are starting to be more and more informed. It's becoming easier to be more informed. And then when they turn the TV on and they see that, they turn it off. Ratings get worse. Industry fails. Get woke, go broke.
Right. I think people get passionate about things too. That's what I noticed during COVID and the pandemic and everything. People started to be like, well, I don't really understand, so I have to do some of my own research. And I think that made people begin to say like, oh, maybe I should do this about more things. Maybe the information I'm getting is something I need to more critically look at and pursue what's actually going on. I think the remnants of institutional trust really were shaken and destroyed during that time because people got so much conflicting information and felt like the sources they were relying on led them in the wrong direction.
But there was even a poll out from Rasmussen the other day that said most people now don't trust graduates of Ivy League schools. They don't trust those schools. And those schools are no longer stewards of American culture. They just aren't.
Yeah. But I suppose we should play some music.
Let's do that.
Let's do it.
Let's have more.
You guys
culture.
ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to hear the song I Was Gonna Be. You can go to song.link/Rachel, and it's RACHEL. Correct? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
And you can buy the song on iTunes. If you want to support the song, you should listen to it first, of course. And if you like it, you should buy it. And then just maybe, it'll be interesting to see what happens when the corporate press loses their mind over a pro-life song, a song criticizing abortion, hits the Billboard charts. And we're getting set up. Do we have the camera? Hit it.
Is this the first time we've had live music in the studio?
In this one, yeah.
Wow.
That's why we have the music corner.
Oh.
It's going to look better eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So these are the old studio cameras, and you can tell like the main studio cameras we use for the show have been a massive upgrade. And then these were the old music studio cameras. So
I've had so many people
Are these
say to
mine?
me,
Yes.
They were right there.
Yeah.
oh wow, that sounds great.
You want to do the? Can you hear me? I was also.
Check. Yep.
Yeah.
So pretty cool thing. We actually got a sponsorship for this song called Patriot Mobile. And it's a really cool thing because, like, they support pro-life, and this song just goes hand in hand with that. So I think y'all really like it.
Go to patriotmobile.com/Rachel.
Yeah, and you actually get a free month
Get a free
with my
month.
code.
Here we go.
All right. I was gonna be.
Some don't believe I'm a living soul. Just a bad mistake that needs to go. If my mama could have just seen my face, maybe she would have had me anyway. And there are those who speak for me, fight for lives that they can't see. There are some who only mourn this life of mine if I were born. And all I wanted was a chance to learn to love and laugh and dance. Oh, but I was gone before I arrived, sent back to heaven on a starlight flight. Yeah, I was gonna change the world, and I was was gonna be a girl. The first thing I was gonna do was breathe and fall in love with you. But a couple of weeks before I saw the light, mine flickered out when you changed your mind. And all I wanted was a chance to learn to love and laugh and dance. But I was gone before I arrived, sent back to heaven on a starlight flight. I was gonna have some pretty curls. I was gonna be a girl. Well, I'm more than just some one-night stand or some burden that you think I am. And there ain't no man who's ever gonna be what I was gonna be. Some don't believe I'm a living soul, just a bad mistake that needs to go.
Wow. That was amazing. All right. So everybody, that's song.link, right? Song.link/Rachel. If you want to pick up the song on iTunes. That was awesome. You guys got another one you want to play?
Sure.
All right. Oh, here he goes, coming out of drop D.
Ammo.
Mm-hmm.
What's this next one called?
It's called Ammunition.
All right.
Just recorded this one about a week ago.
Yeah. You know, this one kind of D, right? I think so. Okay, we'll try it.
Sure hope. In your movie, I'm always the villain. While I'm getting hurt, you're playing the victim. You're hating on me like it's your religion. So go ahead and do your best. Do your best. Bring it, knock me, tear me, rock me, mow me down. Load your words, take your aim, and take me out. Keep on shooting and missing if it makes you feel strong. And I'll keep stocking up on ammunition. Well, every war you start, every wall you're building, it's like a bullet in a gun on a suicide mission. Well, how's it feel to be a warden in your own prison? All the bitter things that you do are gonna come back on you. So bring it, knock me, tear me, rock me, mow me down. Load your words, take your aim, and take me out. Keep on shooting and missing if it makes you feel strong. And maybe one day you'll get a taste of your own. You can only fire so many times till you hear the click of what you did, and then it's my turn. Oh, it's my turn. So bring it, knock me, tear me, rock me, mow me down. Load your words, take your aim, and take me out. Keep on shooting and missing if it makes it feel strong. And I'll Thank you.
That was great.
I like that a
one,
lot.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
That
One
was
of my
really
favorites.
fun. Yeah, I like that.
That's
One.
cool.
I like
Right
the
on.
guitar on that, Chris. That was great.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
All right. Well, we could read some super chats. Maybe, I don't know if Carter's got some.
I do if we got
All right.
time.
We got 20 minutes. We'll read some super chats. Carter Banks is in the house, so play something. We got a new song that we're working on as well. We actually just filmed the music video. A lot of stuff is currently in the works. And hoping Ben Shapiro will be in it.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Very cool.
Yeah, because violin is, we call for violin, so we're reaching out, seeing
Does he
if we.
play violin?
Very, very well.
How about that?
Yeah, he's like
Really? I didn't know.
super good at it.
That's very cool.
And I was like, dude, it would be based. I think the song that we have definitely lines up very strongly with a lot of conservative messaging. I don't want to say too much about it. I think I might have mentioned it what it was about in the members only show or whatever. But
That's why you should become a member at timcast.com.
well, yeah, I mean, when you're watching the member show, I say a lot of stuff that I don't say on the main show because I'm not supposed to, and then I get yelled at later. Because I'm like Joe Biden, I have handlers. No, it's because they're
You're like Trump. He's like, this is the
Just
thing
says
we're
it.
doing. And everyone's like, that was supposed to be a secret.
well, because like the people who are like, you know, especially like I'll talk to Phil and I'll be like, should I just come out and say it? And Phil's like, dude, come on, like we're not. You gotta wait. You can't just come out and say. And then like the song is still getting edited and everything, and I'm just like, well, here's what's happening. And then they're like, all right, I guess. You know, Tim just came out and told everyone. All right, let's go. Clint Torres is the first super chat saying, howdy people. He always gets the howdy people. Hapa San says howdy people as well. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, if you keep saying it, AGs will listen and act. Well, it's a constitutional suit. I'm looking for criminal prosecutions, but you know, okay.
We'll take a move in the right direction, you know?
Summer is 19 says, I bought the song. Thank you. That's song.link/Rachel on the website. Click the link in the description below on the internet, and you can get it. I think iTunes. But I will say this. They keep changing the rules to try and prevent songs like this from
Of course.
charting. Yep.
Did you guys or Chris wrote the song and then
Yeah,
you
Chris
wrote
was
the
like
vocals?
halfway through it when he met me, and then he ended up finishing it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it like I said, it was one of those things where I was just writing it for me to get it out of me, you know, and so I honestly I didn't think anybody would ever sing it. It just had to come out of me.
Yeah.
And when we met her, it was just like one of those things.
How'd you guys meet?
So my dad growing up played bluegrass music along with like my grandpa and everything. So
He
Yeah.
played at the Opry, didn't he?
yeah, my
You were
grandpa
telling-
did years
yeah, that's
ago.
very cool.
For a band called The Voice from Indiana. But anyway, my dad grew up with this buddy. His name is Jamie Johnson, not the one with the big beard, but you know, he started a band down here forever ago. So he's been in Nashville. He's been there for about 20 years, and he ended up meeting Chris one night at was it a bar?
Well, I've known Jamie for 20 years.
Yeah.
long
Yeah, long
time
time
ago.
ago.
Yeah, but he just called me one day and he said, I hear what you're doing with Based Records, and you just really need to hear this girl, you know. And I hear that a lot. You know, I'm like, okay. But with her, she's got a lot of things going for her. And like I said, the work ethic, though, that she had at a young age, she just turned 18. So just,
So you guys started working together when you were still in high school?
well, we started talking to her
Yeah.
at around 17. But, you know, we weren't going to sign anything until she was 18.
Yeah, we signed in January, but
Yeah.
When's that second song, Ammunition? When is that coming out?
That's going to be on her EP. We're working on that right now.
That was a good one.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
thank
a
you.
good-
Yeah, it turned out.
the actual
yeah,
recording. It's
Really
Yeah,
great.
the recording sounds so good.
Yeah, that was like
It was cool.
just
It
as a
was really
musician, the structure, the melody. I don't want to disrespect anybody publicly on their music, but I was listening to some other music earlier, and I was like, what is wrong with these musicians? I'm talking to my girlfriend, and we're both in agreement that like there's like the song that came on the streaming, and we're just like, how does this stuff make it on the? It's melodic. It's like as generic as it comes. I'm saying this because that second one was great. Like I'd put it on my
That was
playlist
really
right now.
good.
That was
I would
awesome.
listen to it right.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like, when is that coming out?
you know, I feel like people that even don't listen to country just because it has such a good groove to it.
Yeah, that's
like it don't.
really- yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
They're both great.
Yeah, and you know, with us too, it's kind of, it fits us too because it's kind of fighting back. Like, okay, go ahead and give it to me. You'll get yours. You know, it's kind of got that sass to it too. You
Yeah.
know.
We got Carter who's gonna jam a song. What do you got?
Well, this is an oldie but a goodie, I guess. This is an acoustic version of a song that I made with my band Traveler called Breathe. and goes like this. So.
Is it tuned?
I think so.
Drop D. Okay. Oh, no, it's not now. Sorry.
You so seek the truth like it's gonna be therapy. And take another stab at me, and you're only gonna hurt yourself. Make no bones, the curtain's gonna close and the credits are rolling now. Wish I could say it wasn't so. Oh, oh, oh. Tell me how do you suggest I catch my breath? With your hands wrapped around my neck so tightly, I beg you, loosen up your grip. Baby, what good am I to you, dead? With your hands wrapped around my neck so tightly. You were sucking the air out of my lungs like chain smoked cigarettes. I gotta let you know, and you gotta let me go. I tried hiding the truth at the tip of my tongue. Oh, oh, I wish I could say it wasn't so. No, oh, oh. And tell me how do you suggest I catch my breath? With your hands wrapped around my neck so tightly, I beg you, loosen up your grip. Baby, what good am I to you, dead? With your hands wrapped around my neck so tightly. Tell me how do you suggest I catch my breath? With your hands wrapped around my neck so tightly, up your grip, baby, what good am I to you, dead? With your hands wrapped around my neck so tightly. That is it's called Breathe. Tim, do you got one? Yeah. All right. We are in D, though.
We're in D?
But I can put you on not D.
Libby, don't you want to be in a band now?
Yeah.
Yeah, are they in a band together?
Well,
Yeah.
so Carter's our music producer with Trash House.
I'll just sing it up.
Tim a lot,
Right.
but you were in a, you
yeah,
were.
there's actually one inside the
He's
guitar.
far away, so he was in a band, I think, before he got here. So it is interesting how many people have music backgrounds and sort of end up being multi-skilled. I'm gonna just keep
Right.
talking while they set.
I
this
like
up.
I like the live music Fridays. I think that should always be the thing.
Yeah.
That's great.
I showed up and they both put out a guitar. I'm like, does everybody play the guitar here?
That's how I feel. Everyone here skates and plays like multiple instruments, and I'm like, hello, it's me.
I don't
hang
do
out with
any
my
of those
laptop.
things.
No, there's not. Well,
I
you're a painter and you've got
Well,
all kinds of art.
I ski and paint. Those are the.
I swear,
that's
my
like
only
the
hobby right now is
opposite
like
thing.
walking. And I'm like, no, that's not.
I could walk.
I tried to ski once. I went to the ER that day.
Oh no. I bike. That doesn't count. I'd never bike on a ramp.
You're also like a playwright. You have a really diverse background. That sort of
Yeah.
led you into this direction.
I have a lot of weird stuff I've done. That's for sure.
I wonder if you will see a rise in sort of arts refugees into conservative stuff.
You know, I've been looking for them, and there are a fair number, but they're afraid.
The intro to Tim's next song sounds exactly like someone tuning a guitar.
This is the song. That was it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to that song. I'm done. I'm leaving now. I am not practiced nor warmed up, and I'm going to play anyway because no one ever described me as scared of large crowds or not lacking ego. Remember how to play it. Remember when we used to hope for peace, but villains weren't only on TV screens. My heart is made up of broken hopes and dreams. I'll take my place in mediocrity. Taking more, taking spite of this. Focus on the ways. Guess you never changed that day. It's hard to believe that you mean nothing to me. 'Cause you used to mean everything. Remember when we used to fight for peace, but heroes were only on TV screens. The market's made up of broken hopes and dreams. So take your place in this story. Taking more, taking spite of this. Focus on the ways. I really wished you'd change that day. It's hard to believe that you mean nothing to me. 'Cause you used to mean everything. There were words in a book about what we've been through. There are lines in a script written for me and you. To take it all inside and pray it works. Another aching in your heart starts to burn. Taking more, taking spite of this, and focus on the ways. I really hope you'll change someday. It's hard to believe, but I'm moving on with my dreams. 'Cause you were never there for me. There were words in a book about what we've been through. And there are lines in a script written for me and you. So take it all inside and pray it works. Another aching in your heart starts to burn. That's a wrap. That's like the only one I ever actually have ready to go, so I don't think there's anything else after that.
When did you start playing guitar, Tim?
When I was 12. When I was 12?
When you were 12? Did you play other instruments too, or was it like
Drums
guitar
first. I started playing drums when I was probably 7.
Because a lot of kids start on piano, right? Do you play that too?
Nope. But as long as I only use the white keys, I know how to make music with it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Or if it's like pre-recorded weird keyboard synth stuff.
Should make like an auto tune for piano.
An auto tune. Carter's suggesting an auto tune for piano. Be interesting. Did you find that you were just learning chords, or was it like what was the first song you ever learned to play guitar?
The Kids Aren't All Right by The Offspring.
Just because you loved it?
Yeah, it's really wild to have them like the guitarist blocked me on Twitter. I'm like, that was the first song I ever learned.
Crazy.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I don't know if I'm allowed to play that on.
I was just thinking that.
It's my favorite song to play though, but
It's a great song.
copyrighted.
Yeah,
So
I hope you'd have to unblock you to then be like, you can't play my song.
I think you're allowed to play covers, right? There is a house in New Orleans.
That might be public
They
domain.
call
now.
no, not yet.
It's not yet.
No.
Because it was an older song than that.
Rising sun. It's been the ruin of many a poor boy, and God, I know I'm one.
What was the hardest song you ever learned how to play?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm gonna stop before they give us a strike.
Again, another one.
Okay. I can't play this one. It's been too long. I can't do it.
Oh yeah.
Give me my electric. I'm kidding. I'm not actually gonna play it. All right, we're done.
Here, I'll play it back for you.
I love Music Fridays.
great,
I
though.
think we should do
No, this
this
is so much fun.
all the time. And I really like that this new studio space has like you guys included that when you were making this space, because I think
I agree. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really
We
fun.
used to do them all the time a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Every Friday night we'd jam. But like, after a while it's like we're playing the same songs that we always played. But we have a lot of different songs. I think like Carter and I have like written down 30 or something.
Man, there's like a Excel sheet or numbers sheet. Yeah, there's like 36 songs in there. And there's there's got to be like 18 officially in the works. It's got to be like 12 we've tracked.
is it
full on?
for an album ultimately is the goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because we do have like the code name is Oligarch. We're not really calling
Oh
it
yeah.
that. But it's like done. It's been done for
Pretty
like a
much.
year.
Yeah, like it's so done that I'm going back trying to figure out is there anything else I can do now it's not done. But like yeah, it's
like
been
a dance
done.
song, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Like
that was kind
electro.
of that's a good one. We're still trying to figure out whether it should be that way, but I think that'll definitely be coming out. Coming Home is the name of the song. Already said
I think
it.
I already mentioned it.
Okay,
the
good.
next song we're putting out is called Coming Home.
Right.
I
And,
wonder if you can figure out what that one's about.
Going on a trip?
That's it. Yeah, it's about coming back from a European vacation. You partied a little too hard. No.
Exactly.
A different kind of person who comes home and what that means
Yeah.
and why it matters to people who care about this country.
Which wasn't even supposed to be on the album at all, so we have an additional album song now.
We wrote, so this was a partial song that I had written, and then Carter, Phil, and I sat down and finished it in like 10 minutes. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Very catchy.
very fun.
When you guys hear this chorus.
absolutely amazing. Wow, that was awesome. Ammunition, so good.
Yeah, that's
Oh
really-
man.
Yeah, I'm pumped
That's a
for them.
killer
That one's going to be
track.
great. We got to have you guys come back when that one comes out, too. When
Seriously.
is that one supposed to come
Killer.
out?
How
It'll be
long
on
will
the
it be?
EP.
Yeah, well, we're doing an EP right now, so that's on it. So yeah, we're
There's a song called "How Dare Me" on there. I think it's my all-time favorite that we've recorded.
yeah.
Good one.
How dare me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's
Yeah.
very cool.
One of the things we're talking about doing is that Fridays trying to aim for guests that play music so that we could do the jams and have them play. Because otherwise, it's like we just play the same songs every Friday.
Right.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
Libby, you're gonna
I've
have
got
to
a few
learn
people in
some
mind.
music.
Been making a list.
You have a
Get my
list
roster.
of people?
I
That
actually
sounds somewhat
do.
intimidating.
Well,
here.
no, it's musicians,
Oh, okay. It's a friendly list.
bands. Yeah.
Well, let's like I guess we'll get to it. Do you guys want to shout anything out as we wrap up? Your socials, where they can find the song?
Yeah, like I said earlier, you can find this song on all streaming platforms, but also the mobile company that sponsored it, Patriot Mobile. You can use my code. It's just patriotmobile.com/Rachel, and you can get a free month. And also, yeah, you can find socials at Bass Records, and then my Instagram, Rachel Nicole Holt, the Chris Wallin.
Well, and she also, I was going to say too, we also have merch and everything for the song as well on basedrecords.com too. Go there and you know, buy and look at the merch and check us out. And we're also going to start a membership. You guys inspired us. You guys do such an amazing job on your membership. It's crazy what you guys
BASD like the hat right there.
Yeah, it's BAST, and that's the social
do.
media.
Yeah,
Do you have a personal social media handle?
everything is the Chris Wallin at the Chris Wallin.
Cool. Libby, I bet you want to shout out a certain publication that we all know and
I
love.
would be. Thank you so much, Hannah Claire. I would be glad to. I'm Libby Emmons. You can find me on Twitter, as I still call it, at Libby Emmons, and of course, check out all the great work we're doing at thepostmillennial.com and humanevents.com. Also, I have a new newsletter, but I haven't tweeted about it yet.
Is this exclusive breaking news that you have a new newsletter?
I know. Well, it was proposed that we do a newsletter for me, and I was like, okay. But then I was like, I don't want to just do a random newsletter with random stuff. So I'm like picking the content and doing a little writing in the newsletter every day. And
If I ask you, will you print it out and deliver it to me personally every day?
no, but I will tell whoever it is, and they can email it to you.
Well, I'm excited for
But
that.
it's been fun. I just started it this week, so.
That's good. Well, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm no longer the dictator of Timcast IRL, but maybe one day if another root canal comes through. No, I'm just kidding.
Comes
obviously.
Choice words.
Look, it was my only chance at power. I've got to mourn the loss. No, I'm obviously glad that Tim is feeling better. I'm so glad we could have a Music Friday in the new studio. It's really cool. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. That's Scanner News. You can follow all of our work at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. We have an amazing team. I'm really appreciative for everything of everything they do, especially for Chris Carr. Like I said, he was a huge help last night. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on Twitter at hannahclaireb. Thanks for everything you do. Bye, Serge or Carter.
What's up? I think this is the camera I'm supposed to be looking at. Anyway, thank you all both for coming out. This was really fun. I'm glad we christened the new studio with some music.
Yeah.
I'm Carter Banks, and all things music and Trash House related for Timcast. And if you want to follow me personally, I'm just at Carter Banks everywhere, except for Instagram. There's a 4L on the end. That's it.
Is this now Bye, Serge? Bye, Serge.
Bye, Serge.
It's not on me anymore, but later, guys. See you later.
All right, everybody. That's it. It's Friday night. Enjoy your weekend, and we are back next week. And oh boy, we're not going to be here for the 4th of July, and then we are going to be at the RNC in a couple of weeks. We'll be there the whole week. It's going to be wild. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.